Hello,
Hello,
I'm Nitish,
and I'm Mark.
and
Well, we're here to judge Nitish severely.
yep, and we still don't have an intro. Today, I'm gonna give you a list of my top 10 movies that I watched in the year 2021.
It's a great year for movies, I dare say.
Yeah,
It's so good that we've both missed a lot of great movies that we probably would have otherwise really enjoyed.
yeah. So there is not some movies that I've watched that Mark hasn't watched, and vice versa. Just because we both also have jobs and stuff.
Yeah, we're especially missing a lot of foreign film action. I know this was especially a great year for foreign films, so that's probably going to make a bit of a difference.
Yeah, I imagine the moment I end up watching Flea, it's just gonna jump into my top three.
Yeah, The Worst Person in the World, too. Heard great things. Titan, not my thing, I can tell, but apparently the greatest movie of the year, so okay.
So yeah, there are some gaps here. This isn't authoritative, but nevertheless, my top 10. I'll say a brief shtick about it, and then Mark will tell me a brief shtick about why I'm wrong, and we'll keep going from there.
Yeah, or right, he could agree with me. Oh,
That seems unlikely because I have taste. All right. So, without further ado, my 10th favorite movie of the year was Marvel Studios' Eternals.
rad, haven't seen it.
Dope. This was a lot of people's least favorite Marvel movie of the year.
I think it's a lot of people's least favorite Marvel movie.
Yeah. And they're wrong, and they hate. I don't know. It's Eternals was one of the least Marvel movies. It didn't follow the standard formula. It wasn't didn't have random quips everywhere, and it had a real sense of stakes and character drama. Characters had genuine disagreements, which forced them into opposite sides of conflicts that weren't breezily resolved away. Families, bonds of friendship, splintered, and there were meaningful stakes to the movie. I enjoyed the experience of watching Spider-Man No Way Home more than I enjoyed the experience of watching Eternals. But I think Eternals is meaningfully a better movie because I think it was a lot more ambitious, and it tried to meaningfully break the standard Marvel formula. And I think as a result, future Marvel movies would be better off for it. And for what it's worth, I also think that Eternals was probably the best directed Marvel movie. No surprise when you have Chloe Zhao at the helm.
Yeah, I can tell from the trailers already it was phenomenally directed.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Anything else to add?
I do not because I have not seen the movie. You're probably wrong about the Spider-Man thing.
I mean, I'll admit, I enjoyed the experience more, but I just think that, Eternals was better, and despite that, and I think Eternals is better for Marvel movies and movies in the long run.
Very good. I can definitely see that. I feel like if it's such a breath of fresh air from the normal formula, that in of itself deserves to be rewarded. Especially, I feel like it does a lot of things right from what you described. It's character-driven narrative.
Yeah. And No Way Home did that, too, and in a really impressive way. But I think, Eternals' ambition, I thought was more impressive.
Yeah, and the shots look pretty, again, from what I see from the trailers.
The shots look pretty. My ninth favorite movie, and this is a bit of a weird pick, is Nobody. There's not much to say on this.
I mean, I haven't even heard of the movie before, so you're gonna have to say quite a bit.
So it's a Bob Odenkirk action movie, and if you know who Bob Odenkirk is,
oh wait, it's ringing a bell.
Yeah, it's Bob Odenkirk is your standard comedic actor. And he does some drama roles, of course, most famously the famous Saul Goodman from Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. But he is this hilarious comedy actor, and he did this John Wick style action bonanza. And I mean I don't have much to say on this. I have movies on here that I like because I'm a pretentious asshole. This movie I enjoyed because people were beating each other up and it looked pretty. And there isn't really...
That's all you need.
Yeah, I got what I wanted. I enjoyed it. And Bob Odenkirk was great. very unexpected to see him as an action star, but it was cool, and I thought he brought a lot to the character. The character wasn't important, honestly. I just wanted to see guns and violence, but
I've heard a lot of great things about the movie. So, like, yeah, and it does seem like your kind of thing.
It does.
I probably would have recommended it to you based off of the premise and the poster alone. So, hey, a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
Your next pick is interesting.
My next pick is Last Night in Soho by Edgar Wright.
Number 8.
Yeah. I enjoyed it a lot. It's this. It starts off as this intriguing horror flick with this very interesting mechanism of traveling back and forth in time. And at first it's just a cool horror flick. And then when you start to see the plot unspool itself, it turns into a really interesting narrative in the way that, like, on patriarchal society and of, like, human trafficking and sex abuse and rape culture and rape generally, and it's just this really interesting movie that has a lot of really valuable things to say. I think it's clever. I think it's inventive. I think it's a great horror movie, and I also think it's an important movie. I was just a fan.
Yeah, Edgar Wright really pops off with the filmmaking of it, too.
Yeah,
Like, these are some of the greatest sequences of the year.
for sure.
Especially with what he does with the mirroring, the music choice. Of course, he's Edgar Wright. He masters music choice.
Yeah, no, there was the one that I was really proud of spotting was there's a song from The Weeknd's first mixtape, House of Balloons, and I think they distorted it a little bit to make it a little spookier, and it's already kind of a spooky mixtape, and it just fit the scene perfectly. In general, like, I think I went in expecting like a horror movie. I found it end up being cleverer than I thought, and I was really impressed to see, I think, valuable social commentary, and I thought the ending was really good.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much most of that. I really enjoyed Last Night in Soho. I feel like more than most people. I really admired, like, again, the filmmaking of it all, the ambition of it all. I guess to an extent I kind of see it as my The Eternals, in that I also kind of understand why a lot of people don't like it. And for me personally, over time, I've kind of chilled a bit on Last Night in Soho, but I would still call it like one of the year's like greatest, even if it's not in my own personal top 10.
Yeah, I respect that. Alright. 7. Belfast. So, my friends were joking about how Belfast was a movie that was made for me. It's a black and white movie about civil wars. I'm a pretentious asshole who likes black and white movies, and I do research on civil wars and war. I thought Belfast was a good movie. I thought it had well done character moments. I thought it had a really strong emotional core. I thought it sometimes had some pretty interesting things to say about war and religion too. But I don't think that it did any of those things so spectacularly that it put it on to the next level. And what comes to mind there are movies like Roma and Act of Killing, both of which those are actually my two favorite movies of all time, that take cinematography and direction and push them to an entirely different level. And they also have something so brilliant and unique to say, and like, it's totally unfair that Belfast is in that category for me. Like, I think Belfast is maybe a better movie than I'm giving it credit for because I'm comparing it to these two, I think, more than perfect movies.
And two movies that are going for entirely different moods.
Yeah, I don't know, because it's like, I think Belfast uses the sort of like child's eye, because it's told from the perspective of Kenneth Branagh as a child, to kind of smooth over some things. But I think they play into that a little too much, and as a result decrease the critical eye of the movie. And like, it's a great movie. I just think it could have been better, and I've seen movies that do similar things much, much better. So, yeah. Like, I enjoyed it. I think it's a great movie. It's a powerful movie. I've just seen better.
That's sort of where I'm at as well. For me with Belfast, it's a movie I thought was perfectly fine and competent, and it looked good. And like it doesn't need to be more than that, but like to me, it definitely didn't go beyond the next level for it. My opinions on Belfast have not changed at all since I originally watched it, and when I originally watched it, I found it nice and positive. I think it had a lot of great potential to like be a bit more emotionally resonant, a bit more beautiful, just a bit more everything, really. The thing that really lets it down is the editing, or more specifically, the pacing. They seem to rush through scenes too fast and never linger in the moment, so it always felt too temporary and not in the way the movie was going for. I don't know, those are sort of my thoughts on it. But I can also see why a lot of people would like it.
Yeah, like I definitely liked it. I thought it was great. It's in my top 7. I feel like this is a weirdly critical, like, this is my 7th favorite movie that I watched in 21.
Yeah, well, what puts it above the others for you?
I think it was really well shot. The shots that they had, there were sort of these corner shots, I thought were really cleverly done. I think he had a great sense of, I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, sorry to my friend who speaks French, but mise en scène, I think, which is like where you try to have as much information on the scene as possible. You try to stage like multiple characters in the same shot. And it's like, I think it had a really good sense of that. I think it was clever the way that he, like, the child's view of religion, as this being this fire and brimstone preacher, but I think there were a lot of stuff there, but I guess like every single time I say something like that, like I think which is commendable about it, I'm like, oh wait, this other movie did it better. And yeah, so it's I think I would have liked it considerably more had I not seen both Roma and The Act of Killing, which are the sort of movies about violence that I compare things to, and not movies about violence, I suppose. In the case of Roma, Roma's about a lot more than that. But like, I just think those movies are immaculate, and this one wasn't. So it can't be any higher than 7 for me.
Alrighty, that's fair.
Okay, my 6th favorite movie is The French Dispatch.
Ooh, should be higher.
So I think this movie is a lot of fun. I think its artistry is evident in every single frame. Wes Anderson does an incredible job with everything, right? Like, it's so well acted, it's so well put together, the dialogue is taut, it's clever, but I think it doesn't have that much to say. And Mark disagrees with me somewhat on this, right? I think you give your case for the movie.
Well, I would argue that the movie does have a lot to say. It's just not really blatant or blunt with its messaging. I specifically think it says a lot about both the journalistic process and writing as a medium in general. And I think it's just the kind of movie that you just have to sort of see the effect and feel the effect rather than just be told. You can't really write what the movie's trying to say, like, down afterward. To me, that's fine. Like, I feel like I came out of the movie, like, knowing everything, even if I can't really put it into words. To me, that's there's still plenty of meaning here. I actually find it rather refreshing compared to a lot of other movies.
I get that, but, like, the journalistic process it portrayed was, I think, less of an honest accounting of like a foreign country but it was more of like this like pop journalism, right? That like
it was cartoonish. It wasn't Spotlight, but I'm so sick of movies like Spotlight also.
Yeah, but like I think like it was a testament to the power of the written word and a testament to the power of the frame to convey these kind of artificial lives, but the lives that they were portraying seemed artificial, right? And it feels like gossamer thin in the way that like it's a movie about this ability of picture and word to create this brilliant facade, but it's about the facade and the value of the facade. And like
that's fair.
And that's what it felt like to me, at least. And like I that Daft Punk song is ringing in my head right now, but I need something more. Like, I thought it was great. It's a beautiful movie. It's so well written. I just, like, it felt like it didn't have heart to it. In the same way that, like, the movie that right above this on the list, my number 5, Licorice Pizza, I thought did.
Ooh.
So, like, Licorice Pizza I thought was slice of life. And so it's a much different story. It's much more traditional than, in terms of storytelling structure, than is French Dispatch. But I think it's sneakily well directed. It isn't as in your face with every shot, so it's not like just absurdly well composed. But it's, I think, just as well directed in a different way. I think it is
very meticulous, though.
Yeah.
Like Licorice Pizza.
Yeah. It's beautifully well directed. It's hilarious, which I really wasn't expecting. Like, I laughed more at this movie than I have laughed at a movie in a long time. And I think it has, like, a sense of heart and personal connection and intimacy with the characters that repels us the whole way through that the French Dispatch didn't. I felt like the sort of writers, I felt like the ghost of characters in the French Dispatch, or like a summary of the characters or something. But maybe it's because the slice of life movie was more like, is more able to do this kind of thing. But I felt so much more connected with every character that appeared on screen in the French Dispatch. I mean, in Licorice Pizza than I did for French Dispatch.
I think that's fair. Like, I don't like the thing with the French Dispatch is I totally get your opinion, even if I disagree with it. In that, essentially, the French Dispatch puts style over substance, even though I would argue it does do both very well. Licorice Pizza, and I want to preface this, I think we like Licorice Pizza the same amount. It's on pretty much the same placement on both of our lists.
Yeah.
To me, Licorice Pizza is almost style and less substance. Like, to me, like, I don't really care. I vibe with Licorice Pizza hard anyways.
Huh.
I don't know. I think to me, like, with Licorice Pizza, the only thing I really don't actively like about the movie is the ending. And I think that's where the two differences are for me. The French Dispatch at least had an ending that felt, like, kind of satisfying to me, while Licorice Pizza kind of felt as though it was doubling down on a lot of the sort of sitcom-esque sort of schlock that I thought most of the movie was building up to either subverting or, like, it just, like, relegating to the background as it goes on and moving on from. It seems as though it kind of doubles back on the stuff from the beginning. I thought the whole point of the movie was to move on from. I think that's where it feels a little weird to me. That's why I can't say Licorice Pizza, to me, is riddled as much of a substance, even though I adore the style of it.
Yeah, I get that, but, like, maybe in the same way that, like, maybe what you said about French Dispatch, like, the ending still emotionally resonated with me in a way that I can't exactly explain, but it just kind of makes sense to me. Like,
yeah, I mean, like, I remember when we were watching, because this is one of the few movies we actually watched together in the theater, and it was at the final shot, you turned to me, made, like, a joke, and then you turned, and then the movie was over and the credits were rolling.
Yeah.
And I feel like that about summed up the ending.
Yeah, I love that about it. It was like, it was like weirdly perfect for me. I can't really say I could put into words why it was perfect, but it felt like an unexpected but satisfying conclusion. And I think maybe the reason it was unexpected is he spent the entire time subverting it. So it felt like going back to that, but somehow it felt like giving a valid emotional justification for going back to that felt fair to me in a way that I can't exactly put my finger on why.
I think that's fair, and I think this would be a movie I would need to watch again. Maybe it would grow on me more the second time around. To me, it almost feels as though, what if at the end of The Matrix, Neo just decided last minute, nah, I'm gonna chill in The Matrix, and then the movie ended. Kind of.
I think it's a little more than that. but I don't want us to go too much into details of the ending.
Yeah, I mean, like, we both really liked the movie.
Yeah.
And, like, Licorice Pizza, definite recommendation. I think this is the Power of the Dog is a critical darling of the year. Licorice Pizza seems to be a close second. I think it deserves that placement. Like, it's just a brilliantly done movie.
Yeah. One last thing I'll say about this. The extended scene with Bradley Cooper and a truck is the funniest thing I've seen in the year.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Bradley Cooper, he had a year in 2021.
Yep. Okay. Now, the top four. And the top four, I think, for me, are a cut above the rest.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start off with the tragedy of Macbeth. One of the Coen brothers, Ethan Coen?
Joel.
Okay, Joel Coen. There are two of them. I was 50-50. And here's the real meat of it. Lady Macbeth is Frances McDormand, and Macbeth is Denzel Washington.
That's all you need.
Yeah. This was like, I thought the movie was phenomenally directed. It was incredibly beautiful. The shot composition was immaculate. It used a square aspect ratio, like the lighthouse.
Yes, baby.
Yeah, we love that black and white square aspect ratio.
The French Dispatch did that too. Loved it.
It didn't do it nearly as well. Like,
I disagree with that, but go on.
Okay.
I think they both did it equally well.
I hard disagree. It was just like, the shots were immaculately composed. The way that he filmed the witches from Macbeth, brilliant.
Yeah.
It was so cool. The way he filmed the cauldron scene with Macbeth waking up in this, like, the way they filmed the castle was immaculate. It made it feel timeless. I do have minor quibbles about some editing of the shots in the very early film. I think I think Joe Coen relied or didn't trust the physicality of his two leads enough, and sometimes biased the camera to try and have to have a shot of their face when he didn't entirely need to, when he could have held different shots. But that's like a super minor critique. The movie's phenomenally directed, but the real draw of this movie is Denzel Washington's performance as Macbeth, which I think is at absolute worst the second best performance of anything I've ever watched. The only person I think who could have done it better, and it might have done it better, and I don't think he necessarily could have done it better, I think it would have been about like as at the same level. Actually, I think Denzel is probably more suited for the role, but it would be Daniel Day-Lewis.
Naturally.
Yeah, and like I actually now I'm saying that, I actually think Denzel Washington like is suited for this role better. So it's like the only performance that I've ever seen that's better than this one is Daniel Day-Lewis is Daniel Plainview.
Yeah.
There's a brute physicality to Denzel's performance that's extraordinary. When he starts to like get angry, it's incredible. The way he fights is just distasteful and arrogant, and it's beautiful. He's just a total master of his craft. Like, if in 100 years from now they're like, was Denzel Washington a good actor? You just play this and you're like, oh, okay, he was one of the greatest. He's one of the greatest of all time. It's just immaculate.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Yeah. The tragedy of Macbeth, for me, this is especially a showcase of cinematography. If I was to make a top 5 like of favorite shots of the year, there might be another movie that might compete with it, but I think at least 3 or 4 of those shots would be from this movie alone.
Yeah.
Like, the tragedy of Macbeth just really pops off on the visual filmmaking level. And I'm a big fan of Shakespeare, so to me, like, this was a dream product.
Yeah, I don't even love Shakespeare like that. I just thought it was amazing.
Yeah, I will say, they do go very fast for Shakespeare, so, like, even I, who, like, knows the story kind of like the back of my hand, got lost at a few points and couldn't tell who was who.
Yeah,
That was my only complaint with the movie, but overall, like, it's one of my favorites. It's pretty high up on my list, too. The tragedy of Macbeth bangs hard.
It was so good.
I want tea.
This is marketing his tea interlude. There's not actually an interlude. We're just gonna keep going. The tea's like a minute away.
Keep going.
Judas and the Black Messiah.
Whoa.
So, I don't know if this is strictly a 2021 film. It was released in 2021.
Yeah,
I
by
watched
all
it in
accounts,
2021.
it was 2021.
Yeah. I think it's incredible. It's so good. The two lead performances are just ridiculous. It's like the direction is incredible. The way they hold, like Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield both gave such impressive, fully bodied performances. I honestly the way that Shaka King moves the camera in this movie is just ridiculous. His command of shot composition and lighting and is meaningfully otherworldly. There's a shot where I think Lakeith Stanfield is trapped in like a factory of some kind and there are like flashlights and stuff on him and it's just incredible. There's a shot where like there's gunfire going on in a residential building where the Black Panthers are being and a standoff with police. And it's just incredible. There are just so many incredible shots here. And of course, it's an incredible story about a really important period in American history. Its insights on race and policing are incredibly important. It's so good. It's just incredible. I knew it was going to get a great movie, right? Everybody everywhere was like Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield gave some of the best performances like they've seen all year, and if it wasn't for Denzel Washington's Macbeth, I would have agreed with them, but Denzel Washington's Macbeth, it's just the actors were amazing, and then the direction put it to an entirely next level, and then I thought the story was just so incredible. It was. There's just so much about this movie that's amazing that I just can't say it all.
Yeah. Judas and the Black Messiah could have easily been another boring biopic movie that I've grown sick of, but it avoids all of these trappings and it ends up being an exciting, heartbreaking, tragic, and rage-inducing sort of experience.
Yeah.
It is it didn't personally make my top 10 of the year. Perhaps it's because it could be recency bias sort of happening to me.
Yeah.
But I do think this fits. It's one of the best movies of the year. It's
Yeah.
one of my honorable mentions at the very least.
Yeah, I think part of it was part of the reason why I was hesitant is I think it was both Kaluuya and Stanfield were nominated for the last Oscars.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there was some mess about which one of them was a supporting actor and I think they were both supporting actors nominated for supporting actors.
Yeah, which was a little weird. And 2020 was kind of weird in that a lot of the movies that I would consider the best of that year were technically released in 2020, weren't available to me until 2021. Judas just barely makes it as a 2021 movie because it wasn't shown to anyone before 2021. But I just have a hard time associating that, but if I counted it as a 2020 film, it would be my top 4.
Yeah.
I think this just shows, one, how much I enjoy the films of this year, and two, just Judas and the Black Messiah is very good.
It's just phenomenal. It's outrageously good. It makes you furious and angry and resentful and just feel for every character on screen. I can't even begin to describe how extraordinary this movie is. It's so good. Number 2, Dune.
A B.
Yeah. So, Dune has been my favorite book since I first read it, and I want to say it's 2011. So I've been waiting for this movie for 10 years. In the interim period, Denis Villeneuve became my personal favorite director. So this was my most anticipated movie for since it was announced. The only movie that I'm more excited I've been more hyped for is the Robert Pattinson Batman. And Matt Reeves is directing. It's going to be amazing. I'm so excited. But I was like insanely hyped for Dune, and like I had outrageously high expectations. It met every single one, and yeah, because of that, I stopped too. Like it's so good. It's this emphatic space opera that feels grounded and realistic at the same time because it's this messy political intrigue. It has fascinating things to say about colonialism and the hubris of colonizers as they try to take over this vast desert population. It's incredibly scored, and the sound mixing is ridiculous. It has art house cinematography at like it. I think its cinematography is at least not incomparable with in terms of just sheer quality with like a Joel Coen's like tragedy of Macbeth, but it has like a several $100 million budget.
Yeah.
And it has like laser effects, like the laser cutting.
They're really nice lasers.
It was the coolest thing I've ever.
Best lasers of 2021.
Yeah, it was the shot of the worm, like swallowing up the ornithopters. The dude Jared, I almost said Jared Leto. I would never insult him like that. But Duke Leto Atreides like dropping like the ornithopters to save the spice miners. Like, oh my god. Like, everything is amazing. It's like better than how I envisioned it in the book. And these shots are immaculate, and they're all the time. Like, there's so many good shots in this film. It's like the reason I disagree with what Mark was saying about like the Joel Coen being like all 5 of the top shots is because Dune probably has 4 of my 5 top shots. Because it's like I've seen like super fancy art house movies that use the square aspect ratio. I've seen the like the Lighthouse guys. I'm cool like that. But like Dune had the artistic skill. Like Villeneuve could have made that movie. Instead, they threw bands of cash at him, and he made this movie. And like, it's just incredible. Like, I still feel like giddy like a child just remembering how awesome this movie was.
Yeah, Dune is the most movie of 2021, and it basically cemented like cinema's place as a thing that will continue to stay and be relevant and excite people.
Yeah.
Even after like the quarantine period of 2020, like movies are here to stay, and I feel like Dune largely symbolically represents that. I agree with pretty much everything you said.
Yeah, Dune is so good. I genuinely think it should win Best Picture.
So far, I agree.
Like, I
haven't seen a few things that might make the nominee cut, so consider that video we will eventually collaborate on non-spoiled, but...
Yeah, but like, I think, I'm thinking of like, you gave, when in our Dune review, you gave the good example of like Peter Jackson winning it for Return of the King. Like, in addition to having like that art house vibe, that of having just immaculately composed shots, every other shot, just because he can, Denis like marshals a massive budget, a massive and very impressive cast, the latest in CGI, and he just puts it all together to make a perfect movie. The only criticism I think that can be really held against this movie is that it wasn't long enough, and that the ending was a little unintuitive place. But like, I think I think it's just outrageously brilliant.
Part 2's gonna rock our socks.
Part 2's gonna rock our socks.
What's your number 1, Nitish? I'm excited.
My number 1, and this one, like, I get not all of you are gonna like as much as I did. I get it's not gonna get nominated for an Oscar. It's not gonna win any of the Oscars, but The Green Knight is my favorite movie of 2021. I think it had a really good shot composition. I thought it was really, really well directed. It was weird as hell, and it took me a month to kind of figure out what I thought of the movie. But once I finally figured out what I thought of the movie, I think it's an incredibly impressive and moving and powerful meditation on the importance of faith and good works, and the power of like integritous striving towards moral action, and I liked it a lot. And like, even competing with powerhouses like cinematographic I don't know what the adjective there is. Powerhouses like Dune and like Macbeth and Licorice Pizza and French Dispatch. I think this movie has a few shots that make me think, oh well, this isn't much worse than those. It might be just as good.
Yeah, The Green Knight was one movie I was thinking about when I was thinking of movies that could compete with Macbeth in terms of cinematography.
Yeah. And like, Lowry did a great job with it. And I just like, for me, like the movie could, like, I think it's just moving and powerful in a way that it took me a while to unearth, but I still think is moving and powerful. So, yeah.
Yeah, The Green Knight is definitely not a movie for everyone, and I'm not sure if it's a movie for me, but even despite that, I still recognize it as one of the greatest movies of 2021 by sheer force of artistic talent and power that was put into it. Like, it's a movie that has not left me ever since I watched it. It's the full scope of its, like, intricacy and beauty, like, is truly astounding. I cannot guarantee you will like this movie, dear listener, but I would recommend it nevertheless, because there's a chance you will, and if you will, well, I think the gamble would be worth it.
Yeah.
It is truly a masterpiece.
Yeah, I think, like, it is an intimate story that feels so immensely powerful and rewarding about the life that you live. And I think it's just really good, and you should watch it. So, those are my top 10. Mark and I do have some significant disagreements.
We have a few disagreements, but honestly, like, I feel like our lists parallel each other more than we do. I don't think there's anything on your list I actively disagree with being on there.
Yeah.
And I feel like most of the most egregious snubs, in my view, are from movies you haven't seen.
Yeah, like, I haven't seen Nightmare Alley yet. I haven't seen West Side Story yet. I'm gonna see Encanto tonight, hopefully. But, so, here's what happened, folks. I'm just gonna tell you all, so you could also be mad at Mark.
But
We were gonna plan on watching Encanto together.
oh,
Because, you know, like, how, like, Mark and I are friends, and we have this movie review column going. And then, my girlfriend, and also a really good friend of Mark's, is a huge Disney buff, knows everything about Disney movies. And she was gonna watch with us, too. And then, because the three of us were watching together, we were like, hey, all of our rest of our friends in the area, why don't we watch together? Why don't we watch Encanto together? And Mark was like, yeah, let's all watch Encanto together.
and then we didn't.
So
and
he watched it by himself.
No, I watched it with my mom. My mother, who wanted to see it, I treated...